the title of this story? My family forgot my birthday every year, so this time I forgot their retirement gala. Hey folks, before we dive into today's video, I just want to ask for a quick favor. The channel's been slowing down a bit lately, and one of the easiest ways you can show support is by subscribing. It's totally free, takes just a second, and helps us keep delivering the stories you love. Seriously, your support means everything. Let's keep this thing growing, thank you. Now, let's jump into it. Alright, so here's the deal, this is one of those am I being petty, or do I actually have a reason to be mad, kind of situations. Every single year, my birthday, me, female, 44, rolled around like some sad, rerun episode nobody wanted to watch. Same script, same ending. They just never remembered. My family could turn any minor occasion into a full-blown spectacle. Puppy birthdays, the day Dad found his long-lost fishing hat, don't even ask. And now? They're throwing this massive, over-the-top retirement gala for my parents. But my birthday? Crickets. Not even a lousy text. So there I was, the morning I officially hit the big 44, just standing in the kitchen. Mittens, my cat, was curled up on the couch purring away, and the whole house was dead quiet. You'd think turning 40 might at least get me a card or something, but nope. Nada. Just me and a heap of junk mail. And just when I thought the day couldn't get any more pathetic, the mail brought one special delivery. A thick envelope, fancy cream paper, shiny gold letters on the front. I opened it, already guessing what it was. Sure enough, it was exactly what I thought, an invitation to the grand retirement gala my parents were throwing for themselves. I kid you not, the words were actually capitalized like it was some royal affair. The party was still a few weeks out, but the real kicker? The invitation showed up right on my birthday. If that doesn't spell out where I stand in the family hierarchy, I don't know what does. I sighed and dropped the invite on the counter. Was I shocked? Not really. But something about this year just hit different. Maybe it was turning 44 and expecting it to mean something, or maybe I was just worn down by years of the same old cycle. Either way, it stung more than I wanted to admit. I didn't even have time to let it fully sink in, though, because right then, the front door slammed open. Tessa, my daughter, came barreling in, arms full of textbooks and her earbuds in a hopeless tangle. She looked like finals week had chewed her up and spit her out. Sleep-deprived, over-caffeinated, and halfway to a meltdown. "Oh my God, Mom," she practically shouted, tossing her bag to the floor with a loud thud. "I totally forgot it's your birthday. My brain's been a mess with exams." Before I could say a word, she had me in this bear hug so tight I thought I might crack a rib. And yeah, her remembering didn't exactly cancel out the fact that everyone else forgot, but it softened the blow. Tessa had always been the one person who genuinely made the effort. "It's okay," I told her, even though it really wasn't. I tried to smile, but she saw right through it. She always did. Her eyes landed on the envelope like it had just insulted her personally. "What's that?" she asked, already sounding annoyed. I shrugged. "Your grandparents' latest masterpiece of guilt-tripping," I said. "They're throwing themselves a party." Tessa grabbed the envelope and started reading aloud, sarcasm dripping from every word as she mocked the over-the-top language. "Let us gather to honor this extraordinary milestone in their lives, blah blah blah." Then she hit the kicker, "Oh, and look, they want you to give a speech." Again. She tossed the card down with a dramatic smack and folded her arms. "What is this, like the 25th time they've pulled this?" she asked. 26th, I corrected without missing a beat. Yeah, it was kind of sad that I'd kept count. Tessa scowled. "This is ridiculous, Mom. They remember every random thing. Like, remember when they threw a surprise party for Dad's coworker because his cat got some kind of promotion or whatever? But your birthday? Nah." I couldn't help but laugh. Wasn't a promotion, it was a pet appreciation event. And it wasn't a cat. It was for his parakeet. "Same difference," she grumbled. Then her face shifted, less frustration, more resolve. "You know what? No. We're not playing along this time. Let them blow up your phone. We're celebrating you today." Right then, my phone buzzed on the counter. Mom's name lit up on the screen. Tessa shot me a look, like she was daring me to answer. "You should probably," I started, but she cut me off with that look again. "Nope," she said firmly. Just, don't answer. Let them wait for once. I hesitated. Ignoring a call from my mom felt weird, even if I already knew exactly what she wanted, to talk about the gala, and more specifically, whether I'd be giving a funny or heartfelt speech. It was always the same conversation, just dressed in new stationery. But Tessa didn't let me think it through too much. She grabbed my hand. "Come on, Mom," she said. "Today's your day. Let them wait." And for once, I didn't argue. I let the call go to voicemail, grabbed my coat, and followed her out the door. We ended up at this cozy little pancake place downtown, the kind with sticky booths and waitresses who call you honey without blinking. Tessa insisted I go all in and order the biggest pancake stack on the menu, covered in whipped cream and rainbow sprinkles. "It's your birthday," she said like that justified eating pure sugar at 9 a.m. We spent breakfast chatting about everything and nothing, like the rest of the world had taken a break just for us. But eventually, reality nudged its way back in, my phone started buzzing again. Over and over. My mom doesn't take silence lightly, especially not when there's a party involved. I could already hear her in my head. "Gabrielle, sweetheart, we need to lock in the seating chart. Have you drafted your speech yet?" Tessa saw the change in my face. She reached over the table and gently took the phone from my hand. "Mom. Don't," she said. "Just for today, let it go." And she was right. This day wasn't for them. It was for me. So I silenced the phone, finished every last bite of those ridiculous pancakes, and just let myself enjoy being noticed. It wasn't perfect. It didn't magically fix 4.5 decades of being an afterthought. But for a little while, I actually felt like I mattered. And honestly, that was enough. The next day, still riding the afterglow of my accidental celebration, I walked into my home office, and froze. Right there on my desk was this shiny, over-the-top family tree display. The kind you'd expect to see at a genealogy museum, with gold trim and delicate little branches neatly labeled with names and birthdates. Clearly one of Mom's latest passion projects. I didn't even have to inspect it too closely to know what I was about to find. Dad's eccentric second cousin, you know, the guy obsessed with antique belt buckles, had his own dedicated branch. Even Evan's goldfish from 4th grade somehow made the cut. And me? I was there too, dangling way off to the side like some afterthought twig someone forgot to snip. I picked it up and looked closer at the painstakingly organized names. Margot and Douglas, Mom and Dad, sat proudly at the top, gleaming in gold like royalty. Then there was Evan, my brother, pictured with his wife Samantha and their 2 little ones. My sister Haley and her husband Logan had their own section, too, complete with a sparkly little sticker that read "Family is everything." Adorable. And then there was me. Off in my own little corner. Elena. Or just plain Gabby. No sticker. No branches. No flair. Just me, all by myself. Before I could sink too deep into that lovely visual, my phone started buzzing on the desk. Because of course it did. I exhaled slowly and picked it up. "Gabby, why didn't you come to the planning meeting last night?" my mom launched in, skipping right past any kind of greeting. My eyes stayed on the family tree. "Because I was celebrating my birthday," I said calmly, doing my best to keep my tone flat. There was this awkward pause on the other end. "Oh, was that yesterday?" "Yep," I said, deadpan. "Same day it's been for the last 4 decades. She cleared her throat like she was trying to change the subject fast. "Well, you know how things get, so much to juggle with the gala coming up. Anyway, I need to finalize the event program." And there it was. Not a word about my birthday. "No, sorry we missed it." "No, did you do anything nice?" Just a hard pivot back into party mode. "Have you thought about your speech yet?" she asked. I could feel my patience thinning. "Not yet," I replied, trying to sound casual. "Well, don't wait too long, sweetheart. Everyone's counting on you. This is a really special moment for your father and me. We want every detail just right." Then she launched into the full agenda, minute-by-minute breakdown, right down to when the cake would make its grand entrance. Meanwhile, my mind wandered back to that stupid family tree. Yeah, my name was technically on it, but it felt more like a placeholder than an actual presence. By the time she stopped talking, I had barely registered half of what she said. "Sounds good, Mom," I muttered. "Gotta run." I hung up before she could start micromanaging my speech draft. A few seconds later, Tessa poked her head into the room. "You all right?" she asked. I pointed to the family tree and let out a dry laugh. "Check out the little gift your grandma left behind." She walked over to get a better look and raised her brows. "Wow. Really going all in on the whole Gabby, the lonely branch theme, huh?" "Guess my life isn't sticker-worthy," I said. Tessa smirked, but her expression softened as she studied the tree, then looked at me. "Let me guess," she said, arms folding. "They want another speech?" "Bingo," I said with a sigh. 17 years running. At this point, I should have a punch card. Tessa rolled her eyes so hard I thought she might sprain something. "Mom, you're basically their backup generator, only remembered when something important needs powering up." That made me laugh, but she wasn't done. "Seriously," she said, sitting across from me. "Why do you keep letting them do this? You don't owe them anything. You know that, right?" Her words landed harder than I expected. She said it like it was obvious. And honestly, I'd never stopped to question it before. I just did what I thought was expected. That's what families are supposed to do, step up when needed. But in mine? That door only swung one way. I gave the speeches. I poured my heart into their anniversary cards. I edited Evan's grad school applications. Helped Haley plan every detail of her wedding. But when it came to my milestones, my life, my needs, silence. I looked over at Tessa and let out a slow sigh. "I don't know. I guess it's just easier than pushing back." She shook her head. "That's the thing, Mom. You shouldn't have to push just to be seen. They're your family. You should matter to them automatically." Something about how plainly she said it, it cracked something open in me. I swallowed hard and tried to cover it with a joke. Maybe I should take up tap dancing. Might actually get their attention. Tessa grinned. "Or," she said, grabbing her phone and standing up, "you could stop being their emotional power grid altogether. Let them figure out how to light up their own gala for once." I chuckled, but inside, something shifted. The idea of just not participating? Not showing up like clockwork with the perfect speech and smiling on cue? It was terrifying, but oddly freeing, too. And then, like a spark out of nowhere, it hit me. If they couldn't see me, maybe I needed to show them exactly who I was. I closed my laptop, opened a blank document, and started writing. No outline. No structure. Just raw, pent-up frustration pouring onto the page. At first, it was messy, just a stream of everything I'd never said out loud. All the forgotten birthdays. The unreturned gestures. The years of being there for everyone while no one was really there for me. But then something started to take shape. It wasn't just venting anymore, it was turning into something else. A story. My story. I have no idea how long I sat there. Could have been hours. My fingers were stiff by the time I leaned back and realized I had a rough draft of something real. Something honest. I didn't know exactly what it was. A letter? A memoir? A journal? Didn't matter. It felt like the beginning of something that needed to be said. The next afternoon, I texted Tessa, "Got a project I want to run by you. Bring snacks." She showed up with a bag of chips and a suspicious look. I handed her my laptop, and she dropped onto the couch, I scanning the screen as she read. She didn't say much at first, but I watched her eyebrows knit together. Every now and then, I caught a quiet "oh my god," or "whoa." When she finally reached the end, she closed the laptop slowly and looked at me with an expression I didn't quite recognize. "Mom," she said softly. "This is, well, too much?" I asked, second-guessing everything all at once. She shook her head immediately. "No. Not too much. Just real. Like, painfully honest." "I love it." I let out a shaky breath I hadn't even realized I was holding. "You think anyone else will?" Tessa gave me the small, fierce smile. "I think it's exactly what they need to hear. Even if it makes them squirm." That one line, that was all the permission I needed. I wasn't ready to show it to the family just yet. Not until I cleaned it up and figured out how I wanted to deliver it. So I did what I always do when I'm not sure what comes next. I kept writing. Over the next few weeks, that messy first draft grew into something solid. A full manuscript. Every time I thought I was done, another old wound would rise to the surface, and I'd dive back in. I wrote about the time I made the honor roll and Mom told me not to brag about it at dinner. I wrote about that family barbecue where Evan threw a tantrum, and somehow I was the one who had to apologize even though I hadn't done a thing wrong. I wrote about that Christmas when the whole family took off on a ski trip, only to realize they'd forgotten to buy me a ticket, 2 days before departure. Every chapter one wrote felt like another piece of me snapping back into place. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just the go-to speechwriter, the fallback generator, or the daughter who somehow always slipped their minds. I was someone with a story. A voice. One worth hearing. Not that my family made it easy. "Gabby, we need to finalize the gala timeline," Mom said during one of her many check-in calls. "Have you written your speech yet?" "I'm working on something," I said vaguely, carefully avoiding the part where that something was actually a 285-page manuscript and not a few sentimental paragraphs. "Well, don't wait too long," she said in that clipped tone that meant waiting was already too late. "And remember, this is about celebrating your father and me. Keep it cheerful. Keep it warm. That's your strength." I bit back the things I really wanted to say. Then came a text from Evan. "Mom's getting overwhelmed. Can you just take care of the speech so she doesn't flip?" Classic Evan, tossing off emotional labor like it was a bag of laundry he never meant to carry in the first place. I didn't even bother replying. And, naturally, Brooke had to throw her 2 cents in. "If you need inspiration for the speech, I've got a bunch of photos from their anniversary cruise. You could work in a story or two, they'd love that." What I wanted to say. Right, Brooke. Because nothing says heartfelt like shoving a cruise story into a retirement speech. What I actually said. Nothing. Just left the message sitting there, unread and unanswered. Meanwhile, the manuscript was taking on a life of its own. I hadn't expected it to grow this way. But as I reached the final chapter, I realized something big. This wasn't just a collection of forgotten moments. It was the story of me finding my voice. A voice that had been stifled for years. I sent the finished draft to a few friends I trusted. The feedback was more powerful than I dared to hope for. "Raw," one said. "Unfiltered truth," said another. Even my writing group, who usually cared more about pacing and plot arcs, told me it was the best thing I'd ever written. Soon enough, I started submitting it to publishers. I didn't expect much, maybe a few polite rejections, if I was lucky. But less than a week later, I got an email that stopped me cold. "We're thrilled to express interest in your manuscript. Your voice is powerful. Your story deserves a wide audience." I just stared at the screen, frozen. The book wasn't just some emotional purge anymore, it was real. It had weight. And that meant it wouldn't stay hidden for long. As the gala drew closer, word about the manuscript began to seep through the cracks. I don't know who let it slip, maybe one of the friends I sent it to accidentally said something, or maybe Tessa got a little too excited and shared it with someone who wasn't exactly discreet. However it happened, the cat was out of the bag. And the fallout? It came fast and messy. The text started first, casual, but with an edge. Evan sent. "Hey, heard you've been working on something big? Sounds cool. Want to catch up before the gala?" Which, coming from Evan, was about as suspicious as it gets. The guy never wanted to catch up unless he needed something. And then Brooke, because of course it was Brooke, showed up at my house 2 days before the gala. No text. No call. She just walked in like it was still her childhood home. "Gabby," she called out, her voice already laced with tension. I looked up from my laptop. I had just been editing a particularly sharp paragraph. There she was in the doorway, decked out in designer heels and a hairstyle that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. Right on brand, showing up like the PR rep for family dysfunction. "We need to talk," she said, already annoyed. I leaned back in my chair and waved at the empty seat across from me. "Be my guest." She didn't sit. Instead, she stood there with her arms crossed, glaring like I'd just wrecked the family minivan. "I've heard things, Gabby. Mom's heard things. Everyone's talking. Is it true? Are you really going to expose us all in some book? At the retirement gala?" I calmly closed the laptop. "No rush. First off, it's not your story I'm telling. It's mine. And second, the gala? Just a convenient coincidence. She scoffed, finally perching on the edge of the chair like the cushion might explode. You know what this is going to do, right? Mom is already on the edge about seating arrangements. If she thinks you're going to embarrass her in front of Dad's coworkers, their friends, and oh yeah, the governor's wife, she'll lose her mind. Is that what you want? I shrugged. If they feel embarrassed, maybe it's because they're finally seeing themselves clearly. Brooke's mouth tightened into a flat line. You're impossible. If you don't pull the book, or at least change it, I'll have to tell Mom what you're really doing. There it was. The old family playbook, pressure, guilt, and veiled threats. I smiled. Go for it. Maybe she'll get so worked up she'll forget we even had this chat. Her eyes narrowed. This isn't funny. Nope, I said, leaning forward, steady. It's not funny at all. It's my life. And for once, I'm not softening the edges to make everyone else more comfortable. Fine, she snapped, rising from the chair and grabbing her purse. You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said. But if I do, at least it'll be my regret, not someone else's. She stormed out without another word, and I just sat there for a moment, staring at the door she left swinging behind her. Would she actually tell Mom? Maybe. Maybe not. But honestly, it didn't matter anymore. The book was finished. The gala was scheduled. And this time I wasn't backing down. When the day of the gala finally arrived, I rolled unfashionably late. The party was already in full swing, and the venue looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. Twinkling fairy lights draped across the ceiling. Extravagant centerpieces on every table. And front and center? That ridiculous family tree display, now upgraded with LED spotlights, like it was some sacred relic. The whole thing felt staged. Like a set built to convince the world we were the perfect family. And I knew, without a doubt, that wasn't an accident. I had my entrance timed down to the second. My family had expected me to arrive early, fade into the background, and deliver another neatly packaged, feel-good speech. But that wasn't going to happen, not this time. This time, I wasn't here to play the dutiful supporting role. I came to be seen. And the moment I walked through those doors, I felt it, eyes on me, murmurs buzzing from corners of the room, relatives exchanging quick glances like they'd just spotted a storm cloud in a ballroom. I scanned the crowd until I saw her, Mom, stationed near the centerpiece of the room, proudly standing by the glowing family tree display. I made my way over slowly, deliberately, each step cutting through the buzz like a blade. She spotted me almost immediately. Her smile tightened just a little, subtle, but I caught it. Gabriella, she said, giving a small wave, so nice of you to finally join us. We were beginning to wonder if you were coming. Oh, I wouldn't have missed it, I said, cool and even. You've always counted on me to show up, haven't you? There was a flicker of something in her expression, maybe recognition, maybe warning, but she kept her composure. Of course, she replied smoothly. Now, come meet some of your father's colleagues. I cut her off by reaching into my bag and pulling out a sleek, bound copy of The Art of Invisibility. I held it out to her like a perfectly wrapped gift. Actually, I brought you something. A little present to mark the occasion. She took the book with a slight frown, her eyes scanning the title. The moment it registered, her entire posture shifted. Her fingers tensed around the cover like it might catch fire. What is this? She asked, her voice trembling just slightly. My speech, I said, loud enough for the nearest guests to hear. Or more accurately, the one I've been waiting 40 years to give. Gasps floated in from the edges of the room. Mom's eyes darted around, looking for a way to regain control. Gabriella, this really isn't. It's actually the perfect time, I said, stepping past her. This evening is supposed to be about legacy, isn't it? Well, I brought mine to share. I turned to face the crowd. Good evening, everyone, I said clearly, the hum of side conversations dying out. I know most of you were expecting me to give a toast tonight, and don't worry, I brought one. I opened the book to the dedication page. To my family, I read aloud. Thank you for teaching me what it truly means to be invisible. This book is for anyone who's ever felt overlooked, unheard, or unimportant. And it's for those who made them feel that way, in the hope they might finally understand. Silence fell across the room, thick and motionless. I let the weight of those words settle before continuing. For years, I said, meeting their eyes one by one, I stood in this exact spot, speech after speech, carefully propping up the illusion of a flawless family. But tonight, I'm breaking with tradition. Because the truth is, this family? It's not perfect. Not even close. I turned to Mom, who was frozen in place, clutching the book like it might detonate. Her knuckles were white. Mom, you asked me to write something that celebrated our family's legacy. So here it is. The legacy I've lived, one of being forgotten, pushed aside, and treated like a background character in my own life. I motioned toward the glowing family tree behind her. That display? It says it all. Every branch carefully labeled. Every name highlighted. Except mine. My branch is barely visible, just like I've been in this family. A few guests gasped. I caught Evan and Brooke hovering near the back, clearly uncomfortable. Dad stood stiffly, avoiding eye contact like a seasoned politician. This book, I said, holding it up again, is my way of reclaiming my space. For too long, I believed my value came from what I could give, whether it was a speech, help with a wedding, or simply staying silent so everyone else could be comfortable. But not anymore. I stepped in closer to Mom and lowered my voice. You wanted something people would remember. Well, here it is. I hope it makes you proud. Then I gently handed her the open book and stepped back. The room stayed still, too quiet. Guests looked at one another, whispered behind hands, some shifting awkwardly in their seats. Finally, one of Dad's old coworkers cleared his throat. Well, that was definitely unexpected. A few forced laughs followed, but the mood had flipped completely. The sparkle was gone, replaced by a heavy cloud of something real. Mom stood motionless, still holding the book, lips parted like she wanted to speak but couldn't form the words. Then, without saying anything, she turned and disappeared into the crowd. As I stood there, I realized something. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the side character in someone else's performance. I was the narrator now. And they were finally hearing me. That night didn't just shake the party, it cracked the polished veneer my family had worked so hard to maintain. And whether they wanted to or not, they were going to have to look at the truth. But that didn't mean they were done trying to silence me. The next morning, my phone started buzzing like it had a personal vendetta. One notification after another, texts, missed calls, voicemails. All from family. Just the sheer volume told me they weren't exactly reaching out to offer praise for my stirring speech. Tessa, still rubbing sleep from her eyes, glanced at my screen lighting up nonstop. Looks like they're awake, she said with a sleepy grin. Barely, I muttered, tossing the phone aside and grabbing my coffee. Let them stew for a while. By lunchtime, the silence had turned into noise. A loud knock echoed through the house, followed by Brooke's unmistakably sharp voice. Elena. Open the door. We need to talk. Tessa raised an eyebrow, then smirked. And so it begins, she said, plopping on the couch with a bag of popcorn like she was watching opening credits. I opened the door to find Brooke in full-on dramatic mode, heels clicking like gunshots on the hardwood. Evan followed reluctantly, looking like he'd rather vanish. And bringing up the rear was Mom, stone-faced and silent. Brooke stomped into the living room without waiting for permission. We need to talk, she said again, planting herself dead center like she was about to issue a court summons. Come in, I said dryly, shutting the door behind them. None of them sat. They stood like an angry jury. Brooke led the charge. What the hell was that last night? You completely ambushed us. You mean the part where I told the truth? I asked, folding my arms. Mom raised her hand like she was directing traffic. Enough. Elena, this isn't funny. You humiliated this family, Mom snapped. In front of everyone, your father's coworkers, our friends. Do you have any idea how that made us look? Like a family that pretends one of its own doesn't exist, Tessa said from the couch, casually munching popcorn. Mom shot her a sharp glare but didn't bite back. Typical. Evan, always trying to play the peacemaker, stepped forward like he was on some delicate diplomatic mission. Gabby, we hear you, okay? Maybe we haven't been as aware as we should have been, he said. But calling us out like that, in public? At Dad's retirement gala? That was a low blow. I couldn't help but laugh, cold and disbelieving. You think I'm the one who went low? I asked, shaking my head. Evan, I spent 40 years being overlooked, dismissed, and flat out forgotten. And now, the first time I finally speak up, you're upset I didn't do it behind closed doors? Let me clue you in, private doesn't work with this family. In private, things just get ignored. Brooke groaned, already on the defensive. You could have come to us. Said something like, hey, I've got a few issues I need to talk about. But instead, you had to turn it into a show. I stared at her. Do you even hear yourselves? I've spent decades being your cheerleader, your sounding board, your fixer. And the second I say something you don't like, suddenly I'm the villain? Then Mom stepped in again. Elena, listen. We love you. We've always loved you. But what you did, what you said, that was just cruel. Cruel? I repeated, my voice rising. Mom, do you even realize how many times you brushed me off? How many birthdays you forgot? How many moments you dismissed like they meant nothing? I pointed toward the space where the glowing family tree had stood the night before. You call this a legacy worth celebrating? You don't even see the people in it. You sure as hell never saw me. The room went quiet. Finally, Brooke broke the silence. Her voice was softer now, like she was trying to be the reasonable one. So what now? You publish this book, blow everything up, and what, feel better? Ruin Dad's reputation? What does that accomplish? This isn't about tearing anyone down, I said calmly. This is about truth. If the truth ruins the perfect picture you built, then maybe it was never perfect to begin with. That's when Mom stepped forward, her face hard to read. Her voice was cold, flat. If you go through with this, don't expect to be welcomed back into this family. And don't expect to see a dime of your inheritance. I let out a dry laugh. If staying in this family means erasing who I am just to keep you comfortable, then no thanks. You can keep your money. I'll take my dignity. Her jaw clenched tight. For a second, I thought she might say something else, but she didn't. She just turned around and walked out. Evan followed close behind, quiet and defeated. Brooke lingered for half a second, long enough to give me a look that was part anger, part disappointment, then she left too. The door slammed shut. Tessa whistled low from the couch. Well, that escalated. You okay? She asked. I sat down and took a deep breath. Yeah, I said honestly. For the first time in a long time, I think I actually am. That conversation left me feeling lighter. Like I'd finally dropped a backpack I didn't even realize I was carrying. I'd spent so many years keeping the peace, swallowing my words, playing the part they cast me in. But as I watched them walk out that morning, I finally understood, I didn't owe them that anymore. Their anger? Their disappointment? Their guilt trips? None of that was mine to carry. It never had been. The next few days were strangely quiet, tense, but quiet. My phone still buzzed with calls and texts, mostly from Evan and Brooke, trying to salvage something. They wanted edits, delays, damage control. But their suggestions weren't about healing. They were about preserving the illusion. That's all it ever was with them, an illusion. I ignored the messages. Instead, I poured myself back into what mattered, the book. My publisher kept calling with updates, marketing was going strong, pre-orders were spiking, and the buzz around launch day was growing fast. Reviewers were calling it bold, unapologetic, necessary. And every time I saw words like that, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, validation. Sure, I had moments of doubt. Sometimes I'd think back to that last family meeting, Mom's threat hanging in the air like a cold draft. Her ultimatum about the inheritance didn't hurt because of the money. It hurt because it proved everything I'd always feared. That their love, my place, was conditional. As long as I played nice, smiled on cue, and asked for nothing, I was part of the picture. But the moment I stepped outside the frame, I became expendable. Still, I didn't regret it. Not a bit. The book wasn't just ink on paper. It was a declaration. A record of everything I'd swallowed for far too long. It was mine. On the morning of the release, my phone blew up like fireworks. The book was live. Social media lit up. Friends, coworkers, complete strangers were posting, sharing, tagging me. People were emailing, messaging, calling just to say thank you. But the most powerful messages came from people I'd never met. Strangers. Women. Men. Young adults. Seniors. People who told me their stories, of feeling invisible, ignored, silenced by the very people who were supposed to love them most. And in every message, I saw a piece of myself reflected back. It reminded me that this wasn't just for me. I'd written the book because I needed to, but it was for anyone who had ever felt erased. Among the hundreds of notifications, one stood out. It was a message from Dad. Just one line. I read the book. Call me when you have time. I sat there staring at the screen. Dad had always been the quiet one. The kind who let Mom steer the ship, even when it was headed off a cliff. He rarely stepped into conflict, and when he did, it was just to smooth things over and keep the peace. So the fact that he read the book, and wanted to talk, caught me off guard. I didn't know what he was going to say. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the conversation. They'd made their position clear. And I'd made mine. There was no going back. And I didn't want to. For the first time in my life, I was standing on ground I built myself. No strings. No conditions. Later that afternoon, I picked up the phone, stared at his message, and took a deep breath. Then I called. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to apologize for stepping out of the shadows. I wasn't going to shrink to make room for their comfort anymore. This was my life. And this was my story. No one gets to take that from me again. So tell me, folks. Was I out of line? Did I go too far? Or did I finally do what had to be done?